Hello, welcome back to our animation course. We're working on the landing pad right now, and we have our control handle over here, our landing pad controls locator with our set-driven key attributes that we've created. We have our right, left, and middle doors, which we can open up like this. We have our right and left arms that we can click and drag out like this, and then our middle arm, which comes up like that. So we can do a few more things here. We're not necessarily done, although you can consider this done now. But I want to do a little bit more to this. So we have 0 to 100 in our units for our left and right arm animations. So what we can do is, before the arms get to their final resting place, we can do a little bit extra movement in here to have them not just raise up like this in a relatively easy manner. So what we could do is, before they get to the resting place, have them kind of rise up a bit higher and then kind of go back down and rest into their final place. Also, another option we could do is, when we have the spaceship actually come in here, we can animate the arms kind of having resistance as the spaceship lands in them. So it's not light as a feather. The spaceship could have a heavy weight to it and cause the arms to kind of push down a little bit like this. Oof, and then go back up like that. So we can animate these arms in different ways, especially when we get to our final scene. But just for the arms to come out to get ready to catch, I would say that whenever the arm values become, say, around 75 or 70-ish, around 3/4 of the way through, they're kind of rised up a bit higher, and then they kind of come down and rest into their position. We can also make both arms do things a little bit differently, so they're not exactly the same. But again, it's a matter of preference. So you can do as much or as little as you'd like at this point. Because technically the animation is essentially ready for our scene at this point. We're just going to add a little bit extra flair in this part of the video series. So let's work on the left arm first, which should be this one. Let's take right arm down to 0 and have it get out of the way. We can even close right door. Can't see it. And we can lower middle arm, and the middle door can close as well. These controls are really cool, aren't they? Okay, grab the locator, and we're going to control the left arm. So the driven of the left arm movement are going to be these joints. I'm going to hold down Shift and select all 4 joints of the arm. Go to Animate, Set Driven Key, and Set. Now we have 3 hinges in the press joints, all in the driven section of the Set Driven Key window. Select the controller and hit Load Driver. So now I have my left arm control selected. Let's work on the hinges first. So like I said, around 75-ish, I would like the arm to be a little bit higher and not quite into its final position yet. So let's change the left arm value to 75. Hit Enter. So you see the arm movement changes to where its current position would be at the 75 value. But now we can change it. So I'm going to grab these joints and just rotate them up and change their positioning a little bit. I can use the arrow keys to switch between the joints. Let's move them, say, like this. I'm going to grab all 3 hinges, and we're still using the rotate Z axis for all those movements. So I'll select rotate Z and I'll hit key. So minimize this. Let's go back to our controller. So with that set at 75, let's go back down to 0, and then we'll drag it up. See, it comes up and then sets back down. So it comes up high, and then when it gets to 100, it sets back down to its position ready to catch. So it adds a little bit extra motion through the course of this arm's movement that we have set from this value of 0 to 100. At this value of 0 to 100, we can do lots of different things. And there's also the press joint. Let's not forget that one. So let's go back to our Set Driven Key window, select the press joint, and we're using the X translate in this case. Let's take our landing pad control back to 75. Enter. Select our press joint, and we can press it out as if it's overly extending as it comes out. And then we'll hit key, and we'll see how this looks. Let's select our controls, and then we can. So we'll see what happened here is the press joint did not keep the change we made. So let's make sure that we're doing it correctly. Another thing we might need to do while I'm thinking about it, let's grab the arm press. We're looking at translate X for the left arm, still doing all this correctly. So we want the press to not start coming out until after the arm has kind of cleared the door. So at this point, around 42, 43-ish, we can key the arm press translate X as it is now. So key there. So now as we get up to the 75 mark, hit enter. Actually, let's go to the 100 mark, the end of the animation, and make sure that at this point the press joints translate is at this position, because we want it to be here at the end. It should be, and I see I have the rotate Z channel keyed here. That's a mistake. So I want to select the rotate Z channel in the channel box, right click it, and say break connections. And now that key goes away. So what might have happened before was we may have had the rotate Z channel selected on here over here by accident when we hit the key button. But now we're going to fix that with translate X selected. And we're at the 100 value. So we're going to key the position of the press right here at frame 100 of this animation, which is probably where we already have a keyframe, but we're just making sure. So we'll hit key. Select the controls again, and now we'll go back to 75-ish. And at this point, I'd like the arm to press upwards. So we'll select the press joint and kind of pull it up like this and hit key. Now let's see how that works. Controls, grab it. So now you can see as it comes out of the door, it begins extending, pressing upwards, and as it comes down to rest, it pushes back in to be at its final position. So it adds a little bit more flair to the motion overall, and not quite so straight to the point. And we can do more stuff to this, but let's go ahead and save some of those ideas for the other arm so we make it a little bit different as it comes out as well. So let's close the left door, open the right door, and we'll select the joints for the right arm. Hold shift and select all four. Say load driven. Oh, obviously I've missed a couple. So hold shift. There we go. Now I have all three hinge joints and the press joint for the right arm loaded into the driven section of the set driven key window. So we're going to make sure we choose the right arm channel for the landing pad controls. And as we select our hinge joints, by holding down Control when we click them to add to our selection, we're going to use the rotate Z channel. So again, we want to add a little bit of flair to this. We have our right arm motion as it is currently. So with the right arm control around a value of 45, I'm going to select my hinge joints. I'm just going to kind of rotate them all at the same time so we kind of get this result here, just to kind of get some movement in there. And now I'll select this joint individually, move it back here. Again, I'm just kind of freestyling and seeing what happens and what things look like. So again, we have our right arm selected, we have our hinge, rotate Z selected, and our controls are at 45. You might notice every time I click this, it's switching to left arm, which is probably one reason why I'm getting a little bit of mistakes as I go through. Make sure when you click the controls here in the driver section of the set driven key that this does not switch on you, and you select the one you want, which in this case is right arm. Have my hinge joints selected, right arm, and hit key. So now let's see what our results look like. So now you see as it goes up, it rises way up and kind of arcs back, and then it comes down into a rest position at the 100 value. And even with this, we could go to around 75 or 80 and do some more stuff to this. Let's kind of make it almost as if it's falling over or something, or still waking up. Just adding a little bit of character to what's happening. Right arm selected. Rotate Z. Okay, everything's correct, and hit key. Now let's look at how it looks. So it goes up, comes down, and then leans over like that. So just a little bit different. So let's open up the left door now. And let's select both the right arm and left arm at the same time. Minimize this, and click and drag and see how they're different. So obviously the right arm is really going wild in comparison to the left arm, but that's okay. And again, like I said, you can do different things to your animation. Just get something interesting and looks neat as they kind of extend out of these doors. For the viewer, hopefully the idea is that these arms are going to be kind of a surprise. Most people will expect the landing gear to come out of the spaceship as it lands, so to have these arms kind of pop up and catch the ship hopefully will be an interesting surprise to the viewer. And you can go on and do different things to the middle arm as well. If we open the middle door and have it kind of extend out. If you wanted to have this extend out further and then come back down to a rest position, we can do that. Let's go ahead and do that. That sounds like a good idea. So set driven key, we're going to select our middle arm and make sure we select our middle arm joints. Hold down shift, select all three, load driven. And these are all using the translate X for their controls. Well, let's go back here and change the middle arm value. It goes from 0 to 10. So maybe around 8 or so, or maybe 7. It kind of extends out further than its ending point. So at this point we can kind of move these joints a little just to, again, add a little bit of oomph or extra to the animations. So at this position, middle arm selected, and all of these joints have translate X selected, and we'll hit key. So it comes up and sets back down. Let's just add a little bit of interest to the animation. It's not quite so straightforward. Alright, so I think we have our controls ready on the landing pad, ready to catch a spaceship. Put our arms back in, close all the doors, and I think we're all set. Make sure you save your file, and I will see you in the next part of our animation course.